Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity bottom left hand corner. We got Clonepro starting as the yellow Terran upper left hand corner. We got Mevious starting as the orange Protoss. I actually just want to give a shout out in Twitch chat really fast, which I should have a few minutes ago, which is what's up, Trained by Death. For those of you that do not know, I don't know if I'm actually more well known for League of Legends or StarCraft. I presume StarCraft. The thing is League of Legends has a lot more reach, and for a while I was doing a lot of League of Legends and playing with people, and Trained by Death was one of the people that would play with me, and it was quite enjoyable in that era of time. But I do want to just pause and enjoy this moment of just having StarCraft and having my voice reach out across time and space on this thing called YouTube that I was actually kind of reminiscing with chat just prior to this, that 100 years ago this would have blown, like even taking this 100 years ago, it would blow their minds. They would look at this and just be absolutely astounded. Maybe a little bit appalled by the sound the Terran Academy makes, but otherwise this game's gorgeous, and it's nice to take a moment to appreciate it, and it's all its depth and complexity and just how crazy awesome the world is at moments. Gotta focus on those moments and gotta hold it in tension. It can be things can be multiple things at the same time. This game can also be extremely difficult and frustrating as well, and also overwhelming because of just the sheer volume of dedication it takes to keep up with stuff. Holy cow. Anyway, wonder what they were doing. They planned for these particular concrete blocks here that they just left them disheveled on the side. And do you suppose that SCVs trip over that sort of stuff? That would be an interesting mechanic in StarCraft. Let's put the map makers on that, a random trip mechanic where they'd fall over for a few seconds. Pratfalls. Mevious sending out an initial scout. Looks like he's going to go gateway. Probably not a fairly fast assimilator, so it's more likely than not he is going to go Dragoon first. This has become more popular for a lot of Protoss players as of week 3 of Hasuleauge. I don't know if it's just these particular Protoss and how they like to play, or more Protoss at large have started moving towards skipping the initial Zealot to get... I feel like there was a period of time where there was a large push of the early game fight between Dragoon Zealots to push out that Vulture, and kind of a fight, needing to get the 3 Marines out early, things along those lines. By the way, Clonepro scouting mid-map and immediately making it into his opponent's base. It's going to be able to see that there was in fact a pylon constructed, which lets him know that he doesn't have to worry about the initial Zealot, at least for a little while. In the meantime, Mevious unfortunately going the slowest possible scout pattern, going top right, and then he's going to have to go all the way bottom left. So he basically went cross map, which is an extreme distance, then up here vertically. I think that's the longest scouting pattern you can do and not find your opponent. Unfortunately, 2 Marines will easily, so we already got 3 Marines and maybe even a Vulture, mostly complete, will be hanging out on the map. Clonepro, oddly enough, kind of backing up in the mid space. It looks, I think the probe got a little bit of vision of that probe returning to home. The Dragoon is going to have to do the scouting for here if it's going to be able to glean any form of information. 4 Marines queued up here for Clonepro. One thing, without investing that early Zealot, there's a reason I call it safety Zealot, and it's mostly to have a little bit of additional firepower to deal with early game aggression, which it looks like Clonepro is going to throw out. So I think he saw that lack of Zealot and likes his odds off a FD or something similar, dropping that machine shop immediately, and the Dragoon sees the 3 Marines. Now, is Clonepro going to keep the Marines back? That's the other issue. A little bit of a trade here, where if he keeps the Marines back a little bit too much, the Dragoon might be able to peck away one of them. But if he draws up the 2 additional Marines, then that's going to kind of give the hand away here. Second Dragoon making its way out, the SCV sneaking back, wanted to see, is able to confirm the Nexus. So 2 Dragoon in a Nexus, and we got initial siege tank mines, but no second factory. So this is very FD-ish. It's going to be I always am interested to see the variations on FD. I think the original was 3 Vultures, 2 siege, or 3 siege tanks, 2 Vultures. I'm messing this up. 3 siege tanks, 2 Vultures, and like 5 Marines. Here we got 6 Marines and a siege tanks for the initial move out. 2 of the Marines not joining there, but they're still gathering up. I guess he wanted to just make it look like it was going to go for an expansion, and he was just testing the front to maybe get the Vulture out on the map. But with no Vulture there, does Mevious sense something coming? He's dropped a robotic support bay, but no additional gateways. He didn't drop a Citadel of Aduna either. And the Marine count is getting sizable. Clonepro is investing quite a lot into this, and I think with this and the SCV pulling as well, 3 SCV, 2 siege tanks, and this many Marines, and we got a 1 Dragoon that's already softened up. A little bit will come to crossfire here as to the engagement. It looks like Mevious withdrawing. I think he actually should have held and stayed there because he needs to buy himself time, and maybe working with the misfire would have been the better part of valor there, but instead going to try to micro his way back against these Marines, is shredding a lot of Marines in the space of this. 1 Dragoon is down, however. A second one is extremely weakened. Vulture's a little bit slow to join the front because it's blockaded behind an SCV, and the SCV is taking a little bit of hit. There's that bunker being constructed. How many Marines do we have left out of this? We still have 4 Marines, and we'd also have Siege Check in the midst of this. 1 Dragoon getting splatted. Another Dragoon is short away from death, and there's some mines in the way. Well in range of that Nexus. Mevious having to turn right back around. And Mevious clearly getting caught entirely by surprise. Now dropping that 3rd gateway. Does not have that observatory in play as of yet. So certainly going to lose his Nexus, and now Clonepro can walk out, grab his natural expansion, and he's also got a foothold to deny this base for quite some time. He could continue to rally siege tanks up here, honestly. I'm always interested when they rally, when you've already got the minefield, and Terran will continue to rally vultures rather than building additional siege tanks to kind of press forward. Are we going to see another bunker? I feel like another bunker right here would be the chef's kiss. And potentially we do have the engineering bay complete. Maybe a little bit anti-air. We do have the Marines. Never mind, Clonepro going for it. This is... Did he overstep? Let's find out. 4 Dragoons still holding. Siege tanks attacking the low ground. Keep in mind there's misfire right there. A bunker being built uphill. A probe getting pushed back. We have the shuttle. Cancel of the bunker as the SCV drawing back to the low ground. Now I'm curious if Clonepro overplayed his hand. Shield battery dropping. Now for Mevious. This is still with the command center being built behind this, so Clonepro's still in a pretty good spot. Taking the minerals off the line so he can go ahead and continue to press up into this. This is still just the 2 siege tanks, by the way. Is going to get mines now on the high ground, and might be able to continue to press into this missile turret from the corner. The Dragoons lapping up that shield energy like they were dehydrated, and that was an oasis of water. One problem with shield batteries I'm realizing is they only start with 60, 70 shields, somewhere around there. So that's all you're getting out of it. I recognize as soon as you drop it. I mean, they're cheap and they do refill, but the initial value doesn't seem that great. But anyway, Dragoons pinned behind the mines. They do have vision, and they also have the misfire rate. Misfire rate working pretty well here. You can see a lot of Dragoons only losing their shield. Not a lot else, just the splash hitting. I didn't realize that on the miss, the splash still counts. So it missed this Dragoon, but still the splash damage went into the secondary Dragoon. Today I learned. Anyway, a probe sneaking out to grab an additional base. So Mevious is going to try to play this tricksy and grab another expansion out on the map. Is getting additional pylons down. Is he going to draw that shuttle back? The shuttle not plopping off the probe rapidly. Is now plopping it down. See if it makes its way back. Can load up with the zealots. We have 2 turrets, however, and a slew of Marines to stop any sort of drop. Also, I kind of like this in the back end from Clonepro, going ahead and keeping that engineering bay in place, as well as the barracks. Also, before I forget, this is the opening game of round 3, which is properly labeled, and I'm not sure if I mentioned that as of yet, because they didn't announce the end of the Swiss bracket, nor did I put the bracket in between, but end here. Zealots trying to press up into this. High ground to low ground. The Dragoons that are lingering, unfortunately targeting the turrets. Looks like this is going to be sufficient to clear this out. Gonna hop into the bunker. All the Zealots getting cleared by that mine. Holy cow. That mine was definitely wanting to see some ghosts, and it looks like the SCV has spotted that Nexus building in the midst of this. Clonepro, by the way, just in a fantastic position. He's got this 3rd factory coming online. Mevious has yet to get that 3rd up. Single Marine going to come back battered, but with quite a tail. The following exchanges were not the best, but already going up to fight. He's basically already in the mid game, and Mevious still hasn't exited the early game. And Mevious is kind of in a scenario where he's kind of forced to just drop a fast 3rd Nexus to try to catch up economically. He's severely down in workers, is even in supply overall. And I think Dark Templar might be the play here to try to claw his way out of this. Mostly just for the map control, because if Clonepro, it's twofold. One, to stop an additional expansion here at the 6 or at the 9, but also to just have a little bit of map control, see units coming and try to slow down any sort of attack in a few moments that might come across the map. Right now, though, he's just trying to establish that third nexus. Does have this natural saturated, has not grabbed the gas as of yet. The other, I don't think just off 4 gateways, this is going to be sufficient. I don't think 4 gateways and 1 observer versus 5, soon to be 6 factories will cut it. Especially because we already have a pretty sizable siege tank count out on the ground. Armory's finished, by the way. Vulture speed about complete. And it's going to be very, very challenging with Vulture speed in place to even defend this flat out, let alone not get run over. And Clonepro, with the army size that he's currently fielding, if he was gonna, I think he's just going for the kill here. Because I think if he was going for additional macro play, he already had a sizable enough army to walk out, grab that third, and there wasn't a lot Mevious could do as far as an answer. Especially if he staged a lot of siege tanks and mines in between. Maybe he just wanted to regrow that siege tank count to sufficient count. The Observer trying to get eyes on how large that army is, +1 weapons starting up in the midst of this. More units coming across. Second gas is planted. And the pylon wall on the front to help defend, but we're still running off 4 gateways in the midst of this and observers. And again, you need a lot. 9 gateways is usually pretty good against 6. As far as a raw count, 4 gateways not so good against six factories. And I meant factories on that second point in case that wasn't absolutely clear. Anyway, observers holding. They have not gone up and checked the 9 just as of yet. Clonepro starting to move out. It doesn't look like... Now here's the thing. I'm not sure if he's going to go secure the third or if he's going to attack or going to do both. If he was going to attack, I was expecting him to wait for +1 weapons, but it looks like he's just going to move. The observer can go ahead and see it. It really can't do anything about it. We've got some zealots without zealot leg speed. In decent numbers. Mevious starting to move out to the right. Is hoping to get some form of pincer on this. The observer at the 9 o'clock shifting up. It's actually speed upgraded, which will help wipe mines down in an open field. Is he going to go for a counterattack? This could be an interesting play on Mevius's part. Go for a counterattack and then hope that he's got enough of a base spread. This was odd. He spread this all the way. I gotta say, a lot of Mevius's army movement has confused me at times. He spread this army all the way back, is now engaging it. The zealots coming in late behind this. This was away from the mines, so maybe I'm the one who's tactically wrong in this scenario. Pretty decent engagement here from Mevious, actually. A lot of those tanks were not sieged. And despite, wow, I take it back. Brilliant move from Mevious. Coming from the right, the Vulture's out of position, no mines coverage. And that was a disaster of an engagement for Clonepro. No mines down. Now Vulture's cycling in. Mevious has actually evened up. After that exchange, Mevious actually evened up the supply, which is incredible. Cannon trying to get dropped. Unfortunately, there's still the Vultures after this and not a lot of army left here for Mevious. These probes dancing on the mineral line, having trouble. Gonna more mines plopping down as they're sneaking up. It looks like some Dragoons trying to make their way across to make something happen. Those Vultures aren't going to be able to wipe out a base, but it was big because it hurts a lot more per Terran to drop an entire mech army just because of the length of time it takes to build siege tanks. It takes a lot longer to build a siege tank than it does to build a Dragoon or a Zealot. Vultures are cheap. You can build those very rapidly, and I think it was Flash or Artosis likes calling them like popcorn, and which is very true. Probes trying to evacuate towards that third. 3 Vultures making it across. It looks like probes defending themselves in the space of this, and more probes are in fact going to be dispatched here at the main. Zealots finally clearing those mines, going to crawl up and clear out, but not before this probe count has been leveled to 37. And Clonepro, angry about that last engagement, is just flooding out endless streams of Vultures up to this base until he feels satisfied. He's going to bring up the siege tanks as well. +1 weapons is finished. at this juncture. We only have a cannon, 2 cannons in place, and the gateway count has risen to 7, which is an easier place to work from. Still no signs of a third base from Clonepro, by the way. Dropping a starport. Never mind, I take it back. He's built one interior to his main. Hello to Chippa, by the way, out in Twitch land. So third base up, going to land. Unfortunately, with the mine coverage and the army differential here, Clonepro is at 108, but his siege tank count is much lighter than it was previously. So there is a world where Mevious, if he does some mine clearing, whoa, and also keep in mind that there's a 10 supply differential here in the worker count, which means Mevious actually is fielding a pretty decently sized army. So if he clears those mines and recognizes an opportunity with the army out of position, he might be able to make something happen here. But this is actually a pretty defensible. If Protoss moves into here, it's easy to siege kind of along this corner edge. And even with the misfire rate, because of the piling that happens there, it can be difficult to contend with, which is why Terran oftentimes will favor this base even if they're going into their Protoss opponent, rather than just going for the 6 o'clock, which is away from their opponent more typically. Science facility dropping to get the +2 weapons stage up, by the way, and it looks like we are going to see engineering bay clutter and maybe some additional clutter in the midst of this. Mevious has grabbed the 12 o'clock. Vulture was able to kill the probe, but not halting a lot else, and Clonepro making sure no additional bases have been grabbed. But you see Clonepro just holding this army in position. The observer sees the entirety of it, and Clonepro continuing with his signature aggression here. Wandering up, how did he, okay, he saw the mines dropping, that's how I was about to say, how did he know that army was moving across? Mevious a bit stilted as far as his macro goes. It looks like he's diving some zealots to the 6 o'clock. No base there to speak of, so not much of a victory. And now Clonepro has made his way up to the 9 o'clock overhang and is going about this engagement a lot more carefully. Mevious going for a counterattack underneath. We do have some vultures that cleaned up the zealot here at the 6. Mevious actually has a direct attack into the natural expansion. More dragoons filtering out, by the way. Do we have anything attacking? No. Dragoons clearing out, but we have the siege tanks drawing back. Mevious has an opportunity here if he micros these dragoons particularly well. Just needs to walk them up to the high ground instead of attacking high ground to low ground. Look at all these missed shots. So many missed shots. There we go. And oh, a devastating mine clearing that attack out. The vultures should be able to handle the rest. Now Mevious is down a considerable amount of supply. Is going to walk right back up and clear out the counter push here from Mevious, although he's catching a lot of siege tanks unsieged. But this is still enough metal and mech that I don't think Mevious is going to be able to evict this with ease. +1 weapons, by the way, is where we're at. No +2 as of yet. Some probes migrating to the 12 o'clock. Under fire. It looks like they're not going to have too much trouble making their way that direction, however. And in the meantime, the 6 o'clock base is starting to establish here. Gonna get interrupted briefly by that zealot. Looks like a SCV carrying some heavy explosives decided to take over the... How does he do that one-handed, really? Or no-handed? How does he carry that and construct simultaneously? It should take longer. Zealots getting amidst, getting some decent mine drags, but only into the vulture lines. A probe was wiped out top right momentarily. Zealots trying to chase down SCVs that are... This SCV went from the 6 o'clock all the way to the 12 o'clock, by the way, and might survive as it's drawing this zealot away. Yeah, it lives, and now is there to repair on the front. Turned from a defensive construct a command center SCV to a battle SCV on the front lines. What an upgrade. Siege tanks spreading out, encapsulating Mevious's base. Clonepro up a huge amount of supply. He's got 4, that's too many machine shops. He's got 4 machine shops as soon as he gets this 4th gas online, he actually can't sustain that, by the way. Particularly if he continues to ignore upgrades. A slew of siege tanks gonna remain unsieged, work past the misfire rate. Dragoons without the observer coverage walking into minefields to the north and quickly forfeiting their lives. Mevious gonna GG, recognizing he can't hold the 12. How did those siege tanks get through there? Was that a drop? We're gonna rewind a little bit. Did they just morph through? That was weird. I don't think there was a drop incoming. We're gonna double speed. But anyway, regardless, Clonepro takes the second win handily. We're just gonna see what happened. Where are those siege tanks? Speed it up. Here they come. Did I gotta presume? No, okay, no, that's a gap. That's a gap. Are you kidding me? I did not realize that that is a gap and that siege tanks could fit through. Mystery solved. I thought that was blockaded. All right. More today, I learned. That was a shock. I was shook right there. Shocked and shook. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.